Good afternoon, people. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk more about Galleria Baghdadi. So I've watched the second episode of Dateline of Motive to Murder with Galleria Baghdadi, and I want to recap, and then we're going to go into the second episode. So to recap, in the previous episode, we learned that a woman was shot in her driveway, and the only witness was her best friend over the phone, and that she was from Iran, and that she was a well-known, well-liked individual, and she was in her 30s. We also learned that she had a boyfriend at the time for 2 months, Corey Beavers, and it's basically ended. No one knew why, who, when, and what, right? So let's talk about episode 2. So episode 2 talks about the men in Galeria's life, right? More in depth. So the guy who's doing the interviews is going from his hometown to Texas, where Galeria's family and friends are. And the main focus is going to be Corey Beavers and Rubin. Now, Rubin is a guy who was on the phone with her when she got shot. If you remember correctly, she was supposed to go to his house that day to approve household renovations that his mom wanted to do. So at this point, the police had I never get popped on this chick. Interviewed Rubin 3 or 4 times since the murder, or they believe it's the murder. And so the reporter himself wants to talk to Rubin and see how he felt about the interviews and how he felt about Galleria being not no longer alive. This year, during this interviews with Rubin, that we find out that she and him were dating. And because they were both intellectually inclined and they both had the same commitments and they both studious and stuff, they decided amicably to terminate the relationship. And since Singh Rubin was the last person to speak to her or hear her alive at this point in the story, they needed to make sure that his alibi was airtight. So they went through his social medias and everything just to find out. And they also wanted to make sure that none of them was a scorned lover, because sometimes you can part amicably and one partner can harbor like hatred or something, especially if a new partner pops up in your life. So they were keeping him as a person of interest. Now, according to him, again, this is a recap of his story. He was talking to her, it went quiet on and off, and then he heard what he thought was a sound. He couldn't make out if it was a bang or not, and he heard whimpering of Galleria saying something like, please hold on, or please, 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 and that's all he heard. And then he called the cops. This have made them move on to Corey Beavers. Now, Corey Beavers and Galleria were dating for some time before the murder. Not a lot of time, but some time. So, sometime is actually 2 months. 2 months to be exact. Where is my concealer? Okay. So, but they were very close, and they were also like the same personality and whatnot. He was preparing for an exam the day before the murder, and he told her not to come, but she had insisted that she wanted to see him, because when you're in that stage of your relationship, you just want to be with each other and love each other. So she just wanted to spend some time with him. So she still showed up, despite the fact he told her not to come. And because he couldn't resist her, he gave in to her impulses and let her stay for a while. So when she got the phone call from Rubin, she was coming home from Corey's house. So naturally, he was the last person to see her alive in the story. So they needed to know if they had any problems before the shooting. So some more backstory. Let me give you some backstory, right? Like really in-depth backstory. Galileo is Iranian, and at this time, Galileo was advocating against the Iranian government. And her father had told her that she must be careful about what she's doing because it could land her in serious trouble. But being the rambunctious woman that she was, she didn't care. She believed that everybody needed to be treated equally, and she wanted the woman in Iran to have the same rights that she was having in America. So she was advocating against them, and there was like really big organizations that were upset with this setup. Okay, that's number one. Number two. Anyway, through technology and stuff, they rule out Corey and Rubin, right? They verified their alibis and verified that none of them had murdered Galleria. One officer on the scene that was there that day, one of the first responders, said that he distinctly remembered a very foul smell. It was a smell of burning tires, and it really stuck with him because it created this vivid image in his head of Galleria trying to get away or trying to escape her tormentor, and she didn't make it out in time. So after Rubin and Corey's leads went dead, the investigators were stumped. Where do they go now? Who do they talk to now? And this is when someone started reporting, like in the same time that Galleria had been murdered, there was a series of carjackings, and it wasn't really far from where Galleria stayed. So they thought, okay, maybe there's a connection. There's a gang connection, a gang of car thieves. So they searched this lead and find two men, and these men vehemently denied anything to do with Galleria because they use shotguns to do their carjacking. They do not use 38 calibers. So the police had to let it go. They had no um, choice in the matter because they couldn't prove either way whether these men were responsible or not. So they let it go. My take is, it's just an opinion, it's only the second episode, but I think it has to do something with. I have a strong suspicion about her father because Corey Beaver said that he didn't even know because he had like a suspicion something bad was going to happen. So he told Galleria to like phone him when she got home. She never did, but he never followed up. And then he only found out 2 days later that she had died. And her father didn't even know about him. He had to introduce himself as the boyfriend of Galleria. And that's when the father told, oh no, she's dead, right? Because he first bumped into the reporter, and the reporter asked him, do you know anything of the girl that lives in this house? So he's like, yeah, that's my girlfriend. And then he went up to the house before the reporter could speak and knocked on the door naturally and asked to ask for Galleria. And the father came shocked, amazed, confused, like, who are you? Where are you from? Like, and he had to explain himself to the father. So Galleria had not told her father about Corey, right? But he just remembers being distinctly upset. Like he couldn't like get his we couldn't get over the fact that she was gone. Like, what the hell just happened? They weren't like close, but for him 2 months, in the 2 months had grown really, really close. Coming back to my theory, I think there's a father angle because like Arab fathers are very strict, especially the Orthodox. Again, it's early in the story, so I cannot tell you if it's my foresight is very limited or it's something to do with the Iranian government. Or maybe there was a secret man who was in love with her, like at work or at school, that like couldn't stand the thought of her not being with him and decided to like take her out of the game. But it's an interesting story because there's a religious aspect, there's a governmental aspect, with the love interest aspect. So the love interest aspect gone, like you have to remember there are certain types of the motives are such love, power, lust, honor, pride, and humiliation, and money. Those are the motives for murder. So first thing, love is the most prominent one in most cases. It is out of the question for the time being. What other power, what other possible motives can there be? It has to be either power or money, religion or politics. But for those who don't know, it's a daytime episode. It's a podcast on Spotify Lite, and I'm enjoying it very much. So they took the visual part of it, stripped it from the audio, and then put the audio onto Spotify Lite. It's I'll tell you something. It's very like not bland, but it's very like straightforward. There's no like twisting turns. There is twisting turns in the story itself, but the storytelling isn't really compelling. I guess because the people who are doing it are quite old. No offense. So they have it's a lackluster in the way they present. I think in those days when they were taught how to journalism and whatnot, it wasn't taught with emotion. So as bland as I'm giving it to you, that is as bland as they were taught to say it. No like emotion, so out provoking any feelings inside of you. So having said that, I think the story is good. Obviously, I'm a true crime buff. I like true crime, so I will listen to a true crime story. But I think the delivery of the story is but matter of fact. So, having said the fact that it's been stripped away from the visual and made into audio, it tells me that they heavily relied on the visual to carry the story. Like, without the visual, it just. And then they have an ad in between, which I fucking hated. Like, why would you put an ad for another. For, okay, for another. Okay, my parents just went to the shop. So as I said, okay, for another, like, they didn't strip it away properly, so they didn't strip the ad part of it either. But it's a good it's good. Daytime is a good program. It's a good true crime program. I just think they relied heavily on the visuals more than the, as you can tell because I listen to the audio only, than the audio. So, but do not take my word for it. I'm interested because I'm also Muslim in this particular story. There is other stories, um, but I chose this one because of the religious and government aspect, and I find the story very fascinating. So this is the second episode. Recap: a young woman in the winter of 2011 is found dead in her car inside her driveway with her car banged up against the garage door. Someone heard a scream and a shot, phoned the police. Her best friend, ex-boyfriend, also heard the shot and called the police. Her current boyfriend didn't even know that she was gone. So, and her father was telling her to be careful about her political views and how she's fighting for the liberation of women in another country. So, yeah, that's where we ended. I'm just going to finish my makeup look. So we're going to be a little bit quiet. Oh yes. So thank you for listening to that story. I'm going to explain something to you now. I'm going for therapy. Uh, I don't know if I told you guys, but I lost my job last year in August, and it was not a very good time for me. And a couple of months later, I lost my boyfriend. So I've been hard pressed to find something to cope with all of this, and I don't know what to do. And my mother suggested that I should go for therapy. And at first, I thought she was crazy because how can she think I'm crazy? But then I saw it from her point of view that you know what, she can't cope with it. She's a licensed therapist. She can't help me because in those days, they if they liked someone, they got married. Finish. But like today's time, you can like get options and stuff. So she doesn't understand what it's like to be dating someone, have to end up sleeping with that person, and then that person dumping you like 6 years later. So I'm gonna. This is my first session. We just like covered the logistics, my name, my surname, what I want to achieve from therapy sessions. And yeah, so I feel good about it. I feel very good about it. This is a mini rant because the story is over, so I have to talk until my makeup is finished. So if any of you know what I can do to like combat my feelings, like it's my first boyfriend. If you understand what I'm saying, I know I'm 30, but it was my first boyfriend. Like I didn't like do any of what the stuff before, so I myself do not know what the hell I should be doing. Like how should I be handling this? How should I be handling a breakup? I don't think and it was very embarrassing for me at first because like as a Muslim, like what the hell am I doing? Why am I like why? You know, why am I doing that? Why am I engaging in premarital sex and being so open about it? But I think it also could be a motive for Galeria's death. Like she was technically she was a Muslim girl and she shouldn't have been engaging in premarital relations. So that could have been one of the things I think happened also. Like I said, because like those type of fathers are fairly strict. Even though they live in a modern day country, a liberated country, they still want to bring the orthodox ways to that country. They want to like, and you can bring